Welcome to Everything Life Coaching. I'm John Kim.
And I'm Noelle Cordeaux. We are the founders of JRNI Coaching.
We're super passionate about all things coaching and want to share what we've learned from over a decade of coaching and training over 1,000 life coaches.
Dive deep into a more meaningful career, find freedom, and make an impact on the world around you.
On today's episode, a very important topic, the right time to start, plus why we put things off. Noelle, good morning.
Good morning.
I love the why we put things off. That's a big topic. I think very relatable to many.
It's a huge topic, and I think it relates to our time as well, because many of us stayed put indoors with our thoughts, with our hopes, with our dreams behind computer screens for about a year and a half.
Yeah. And then suddenly we get used to that.
And now we've exploded into the world, and many of us made promises to ourselves on who we wanted to be, what meaning really holds for us in life, things that we wanted to change, things that we were no longer willing to accept. And this is where the rubber meets the road. It is time to put all of those things into action. And that's often the hardest part.
Do you think the pandemic has made us, I'm kind of scared to use this word, lazy, or made us afraid to, go out and you think a lot of people, because I know many lost traction with the pandemic just in life and career. And now they're kind of afraid to get back on the horse.
I think that's a really uniquely personal situation. And I think it really runs the spectrum based on who experienced what during the pandemic and the level of shift that folks are interested in. There are some common themes that I've heard absolutely repeated. There's a lot of anxiety with individuals returning to office spaces.
Yeah.
And that anxiety is stemming from three different positions. The first is I kept my company afloat during the pandemic and my productivity did not lag, and I don't want to keep working like this. The second is I'm scared of getting sick from other people, which is
Right.
totally legitimate. Then the third is based on interpersonal interaction and interpersonal engagement. And there is a huge feeling of, I don't want to return to business as usual. The
Mhm.
way that interactions played out at work are no longer sustainable for me.
Yeah, and you know what else has happened, I think, is during the pandemic, a lot of people um, reevaluated what they're doing, who they surround themselves. It's almost like the pandemic forced us to sit still, and we got to see what comes up, And I think a lot of people decided that they didn't want to be in this relationship or wanted to change careers. Like a lot of big life choices stem from sitting with yourself for a year.
Absolutely. And then, taking all of the reasons I just listed over to the personal space, we apply them to really big constructs like motherhood.
Mhm.
Mothers got slammed during the pandemic with
Yeah.
having more of the household childcare and work responsibilities than previously. It caused a huge, shift out of the workforce. And then in terms of relationships, people are just awkward with each other right now. No
Yeah.
one's really sure how to engage interpersonally after being out of practice for a year and a half.
I wonder if life coaching is booming because of this. I wonder if this is a factor in the business of coaching.
It is a factor in the business of coaching, and it's a factor for, again, a few different reasons. So, one of them, as we're seeing in the world of work, that more and more firms and companies and organizations are turning to coaches, are turning to coach training and coach implementation as a solution for the cultural and communication breakdowns that have
Mhm.
occurred, giving folks within organizations shared responsibility for that collective well-being, which is gorgeous and about time. Um, Additionally, on a personal level, folks are coming into coach training because they want the communication methodology that allows them to move forward into different and diverse spaces, to gain education for themselves around risk taking, not only to become coaches in industry, but also to have that knowledge personally fashioned. And then finally, we're seeing a boom in coaching services within our own organization. Every day I see a post like, hey, I got my first high dollar client. Hey, my business is taking off, because individuals need help with the accountability factor of making choices, moving forward, and doing the damn thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, craving connection, craving community, and also getting used to Zoom, getting used to, this virtual space has now kind of become the norm. I think all of that is contributing to online coaching yeah, exploding.
Online coaching and in-person coaching, a lot of folks are really craving connection at a deeper level.
So let's talk about the right time to start. How do we
Yeah.
know? How do we know when the right time to start is?
Yeah. So, in order to really get underneath this issue from a coaching perspective, and this is what we do in coaching education, is we don't look at the problem, we look at the human and say
Mm,
what's really going on. If someone is hedging, if someone is circling, if someone is scared to commit to coach training or any other kind of life-giving experience, what's the deal? And part of the deal is something called subjective value. And it's a form of bias that impacts humans, especially. And subjective value has to do with the metaphor of a bird in the hand is worth two in the bush, that whatever we have in the present time, by a sleight of mind, by a mind bug, a shortcut, an availability heuristic, we tend to value that which we have in the present, which actually might be not as great or as satisfying or good for us long term, more than something that's going to require waiting or
mm.
work in the future.
So what do we do with that if that is, if that is our bias?
Step one is know that it's true.
Yeah.
Step one is understand your human operating system. There was a really fascinating study that the majority of people out there would rather take $80 now versus $100 3 months from now.
Yeah, that is me. I would not only take the marshmallow, but I would go over hop the thing and take the other kid's marshmallows as well.
Yeah,
Instead of that famous marshmallow test, instead of waiting and getting 2.
absolutely. And that's one of the reasons why long term, large scale goal accomplishment is hard, and why it's hard day in and day out to accomplish um, small tasks that set us up to become the flourishing version of our future self versus the meh, I'm kind of the same version of our
Right.
future self.
How do we know, if because there's that fine line. How do you know if, something is good for you and you enjoy it and you take it now and it's coming from a place of self-care, self-worth? For example, like you going to raves or fulfilling the extrovert in you and connecting. Or is it, how do you know between that or, you're taking too much now instead of, having discipline and spreading yourself out and investing in tomorrow?
Absolutely. So, it comes down to procrastination and again, subjective value, right? So, if I'm heading out for the night or for the weekend. I also have a tremendous amount of responsibility at work. And
Mhm.
so if my desire to go out and dance and be around people is getting in the way of my responsibility, and I'm putting very important things off that will hurt me or other people, to get the immediate value, then we have a little bit of a problem. But if I have an even and steady view and can say, no, going out and dancing is actually pretty life giving right now. It gives me more energy to show
Right.
up to work on Monday with a clear head, with a satisfied soul. Then, then we're in good shape. And this is one of the things that you can work on with a coach, is to
Mhm.
create access to your future state, to the thing that you want to work on, to the thing that you want to do in the present, so that the finish line actually seems closer. For example, future visioning, vision board, journaling, having an accountability buddy, having a coach can take your future state and bring it into the fore.
Yeah. One of the things that I, ask myself, and I just really like simplifying it is, am I running toward myself or away? And so, for
Mm,
example, in the next couple weeks, I'm going to Alaska on a 7-day adventure dirt bike ride with 12 other dudes, and it's also very expensive. And if I'm doing that to run away from myself as a distraction, as an escape, to not deal with things, that kind of thing, that would be bad. If I'm doing that as a way toward myself, meaning giving myself that maybe once every couple of years as a way to refuel, re-energize, connect with nature, all that stuff, then I feel like I'm running toward myself, and that's a good thing.
yeah, absolutely. And again, I think too here it's really important to highlight two different aspects. The idea of procrastination, what procrastination is, and
Hmm.
then the idea of environmental embodiment, which is something that is largely discounted. And one of the things that coach training centers is the environmental embodiment. So let me break it down for you.
Hmm.
If you were using the dirt bike trip to procrastinate, I imagine that that would take the form of spending hours looking at different dirt bike tricks online,
Right.
um, ruminating over it, daydreaming
Yeah.
about it at the expense of physically embodying your reality and doing what you need to do in the present. At the same time, um, when you are actually on the dirt bike trip, you will be physically embodying your new environment, and that's experiential gain. That's a different facet of existence than the rumination that takes place when we put things off or
Mm.
or or block ourselves from the present.
Yeah, so the experiential piece being greater than, or that being the positive, and then the rumination, the sinking in your head and getting lost in um, your obsession, and then that becoming procrastination.
Yeah, and let's bring this to coach training. So this is what we hear a lot from folks who work with our admissions coaches. And oh, by the way, at Journey, when you're interested in coach training, you actually work with a coach to help you sort through all of this stuff. So when folks are thinking about coach training and they're procrastinating and ruminating in a way that is harmful or at worst and passive at best, it's usually tied to fear and questions of identity and scarcity. Who am
Mhm.
I to do this work? Can I do this work? Can I be successful at this? Is it a viable field? Taking the time to do active research on the space and answer those questions in a methodical, concrete way, take the answers and apply the data is the effective way towards goal accomplishment. When it
But it's also
becomes
hard to do by yourself.
it's very hard to do by yourself.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of risk to kind of go off into the pasture, spending years looking at different coach training programs, stalking coaches online, working with several coaches, buying a million different domains and never actually taking action on the goal.
Mhm.
Um, and one of the things that gets really lost in that aspect of putting things off is the experiential gain of being in a coach training program, surrounded by a community of other coaches, having mentors and instructors to rely on, actively engaging in learning, building your business based on knowledge, data, strategy, and professional colleague advice versus sitting in your dark bedroom by yourself, Googling things that may or may not be actually factual.
Yeah, it's going back to what you said, giving yourself the experience.
Giving yourself the
Yeah.
experience. And so in order to kind of to work with this is a primary skill that coaches impart to their clients, is getting their clients to step back and look at themselves in context and being really honest. What am I doing with my time?
Mm.
I'm looking at coach training programs. Okay. Are you doing it in an effective, methodical way where you're collecting data and making decisions? Yes, no. Are you doing it in a fear driven, scarcity driven, self doubt, positionality that is keeping you stuck? Yes, no.
When you said scarcity, one of the things that I thought about is, scarcity and abundance as far as our mindset and where we're pulling from, and I wonder if that would also be a good measure.
It would be a good measure. And, circling back to the pandemic, I think that's one of the things that folks are beginning to redefine, is what is abundance. And that idea is shifting for so many folks for a really, really, really long time, probably since the dawn of the Industrial Revolution. Abundance was cash money.
Yeah.
um, Prior to the Industrial Revolution, abundance was a great crop harvest. Abundance was beautiful weather. Abundance was a healthy family. Abundance was time. And that's one of the things that in American society has been so lost, is meaning and abundance and currency and energetic exchange attached to time. And so kind of, saying, again, from a coaching perspective, questioning everything. Why do I feel this way? What are the theoretical roots of the feeling? Is this mine, or is this something that has been handed to me? Do I want to accept this feeling of fear? Is there an alternative?
I got to chill when you said abundance because I kid you not, 6:20 a.m. this morning before the baby woke, I was sitting with coffee. I always jot down notes and do some self journaling. And here's what I wrote: abundance isn't just about wanting more; it's about believing you deserve better. It's the energy back from finally believing in yourself. You seek abundance because you have worth, not because of ego. Everyone deserves abundance.
That's
Yeah,
beautiful.
it's just really interesting that you're talking about abundance, and I was like, "Oh, I was thinking about that this morning." Random.
Yeah, and I love the synchronicity, and
Yeah.
I've started to think about abundance differently as well. So, let's be real, like, we you and I both run businesses.
Mhm.
We're partnered in running JRNI, and at the starting line, if somebody had given me a snapshot into the first 2 days of this week, Monday, Tuesday, and said, "This is what your life is gonna be like when you're a CEO," I might have said, "No, thank you."
Of course. Right, right.
Um, but because I've started to value abundance differently and time differently, I recently made the decision to only work Monday through Thursday. So
Mhm.
I'm officially not working Fridays, and that has changed everything for me. It has lit a fire under me to work my ass off Monday through Thursday so that I have earned my time on Friday to read, to sleep in, to prepare food, to see my parents, to see my friends' kids, to go for
Yeah.
walks. And for me, that's abundance.
Yeah, I love that definition. Wow. That abundance isn't, Ferraris and mansions and and winning the lottery. That abundance can be taking one day off. Abundance can equal a 4-day work week, and so I love that reframe. I love that new definition.
Yeah, and I can't emphasize enough that it is actually connected to coaching.
Hmm.
That coaching is a discipline of the reframe. Coaching is a discipline of asking questions. Do I have to do it this way? Who says I have to work 6 days a week? Who says I have to work 5 days a week? Is there an option to change things? If I changed things, what would happen? And drilling down on these questions over and over and over again, setting up your future vision as the motivation to get shit done, is the way that we roll in coaching. And you know that is how we cultivate the right time for action.
Yeah.
One of my favorite coaching questions is how will you know? How
Mm-hmm.
will you know when you have enough data? How will you know when you're done a project? How will you know when you're ready for a relationship? How will you know when the relationship is right for you? And that requires analysis.
Yes. So many people think life coaching is about giving advice. Coaching is about questioning, and the questions act as a rudder to guide people, and also create soil for revelations. And that's one of the things that we do at Journey Coaching is train you on how to ask questions.
Yes, and the
Yeah,
questions themselves are the magic beans.
yeah,
That is the work of coaching. It's challenging the status quo, challenging yourself, challenging your clients to move to a different threshold of existence. And if you're waiting, if you're circling, if you're thinking about coach training, I challenge you to evaluate how you're spending your time. Are you spending it in data and anticipation and concrete examples of what you want and what you don't? Or are you spending it in fear of scarcity? Are you spending it in ego and interpretation of the self? And if any of the latter are true for you, guess what? You're normal,
hmm
you're human, and you're doing just fine. Come talk to us at Journey Coaching and work with a coach to see if you can get some movement.
Noel, we threw a boomerang in the beginning of this podcast, and I believe it came back. I think we went full circle, touched on a lot of different topics, but I think it didn't land in someone's yard. I think it came back, so I like it.
It always does. And thank you for sharing your early words on abundance. Coming to an Instagram post near you sometime soon will be those
Yes.
words.
Thank you. Be well.
Be well.
Thanks for listening to Everything Life Coaching. If you're feeling the draw to become a coach, head to journey.co/everything to explore a new career that brings fulfillment, gives you a true sense of purpose, and a strong community to do it in. We created Journey Coaching to equip you with the tools, training, and community you need to attain your goals.
Join Journey Coaching and begin your journey towards personal freedom and a transformative state of growth today. That's JRNI.co/everything.